thank you for being here. Today is Tuesday, December 19th. It is 7 o'clock p.m., and I'd like to call our council meeting to order. At this time, if I can have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Councilperson Mathis is not here yet. Councilperson Dreher sent me an email that he will not be in town. Councilperson Roma is not here yet. Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Cristia Lu, Interim Village Manager, Joseph Geller, Village Attorney, Erwin Williams, CFO, Ronnie Huffnagel, acting Chief.
Okay, at this time, we don't have quorum. We have 2 members missing, but I have said at previous meetings, and I will say at every meeting, the meeting starts at 7 o'clock, I will start at 7 o'clock. Councilperson Roman has walked in. Approval of the agenda. I'd like to add 2 items to the agenda. H1, Pannoni contract. And H2, CITT legal written opinion. I'd like both of these items to be discussed after I-5 resolution and before the last 2 resolutions on the agenda. With that said, may I get a motion to approve the agenda with the 2 additions?
Motion to approve.
This motion been made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second? Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, hearing none, we are going to the approval of the minutes for November 28th. Minutes are much better. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a quick, just edit. My name is not Rosman, it's Roman. So at the beginning and then throughout it's incorrect, but I just, at the very beginning, if you could just,
R-O-M-A-N, as opposed to Rosamond?
yeah.
Okay, so there's a correction to the minutes. It's Councilperson Vimati Roman, R-O-M-A-N, not Rosamond. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes with the correction.
Excellent. A motion's been made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, great. We are starting off our meeting. We're really excited. We have a new full-time officer. He's not new with us. Officer Battaglia has been with us a little over a year now, and probably seems like he's full-time because he's here every single day, probably volunteering, giving back to the community at the community events. So while I'm sure selections are really hard to make, can't be that hard when you were in the lineup because you've been really great and we all love you. So welcome, we're really excited. So at this time, if you can come up so you can be sworn in as one of our full-time police officers, and then we'll take pictures right afterwards.
Also present for the record, Councilperson Mathis.
Right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and protect and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and of the state of Florida, and that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of full-time officer on which I am now about to enter. So help me God.
All right, let's take a picture. You can indulge us in a photo. All right, again, congratulations on behalf of us, and we look forward to seeing you even more. Be safe out there. At this time, good and welfare? Bye-bye. Anybody would like to come up in good and welfare at the moment? Huh?
Anything you have to say?
Do it again. Okay. At this, you can come up, you have 2 minutes, state your name and address for the record, and you can, it's not a time to debate, but it's time to say anything that's going on or that you'd like us to be aware of.
There wasn't.
Just real quick, 2 minutes. Start. I am here in good
Say your
faith.
name.
Name and address for the record.
Oh, my
Name
name
and
is
address for the record, please.
Felix Guzman, 440 Northeast 90th Street, El Portal, Florida. Well, we know that. I'm here in good faith because I have two loving or beloved to me neighbors who have been in some sort of power trip for years, and I want this to stop.
Okay.
This has to stop. I want this to end by the end of the evening with an apology from both of them, because it's all we need. It's all we need. It's too much time wasted. We could be doing other things like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and stuff like that, you know? That's it, really. I'm
Thank
not
you.
leaving this room until that happens.
Thank you, Felix.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else in good and welfare? Okay, hearing none, we have several resolutions, and I believe we have one ordinance on the record, and 2 additions to the agenda. So, if we can go to the first resolution, 2015-60, it's a second reading, Brownsfield designation. Attorney Geller, if you can please read it to the record.
A resolution of the Mayor and Village Council of El Portal, Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, making certain findings and designating the real property located at 471 and 495 Northeast 83rd Street, El Portal, Miami-Dade County, Florida, 33138, identified by Miami-Dade County folio numbers 18-3207-020-0130 and 18-3207-020-0140, as further identified by the map in the attached Exhibit A, as the El Portal Northeast 83rd Street Green Reuse Area pursuant to Section 376.80 Florida statutes of Florida's Brownfields Redevelopment, Rehabilitation, Job Creation, and Promoting Economic Redevelopment. Authorizing the village clerk to notify the Florida Department of Environmental Protection of said designation, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes.
All right, thank you. I believe you just walked in time. If you want to, I'll go ahead and allow you up to come up and brief the council and the members in the audience on this.
Certainly. My name is Carrie Barsh, attorney with offices at 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue. I'm joined by Jim Miller, who's also the environmental consultant for the property owner.
With Hydrologic Associates, 10406 Southwest 186 Terrace in Miami.
We request that you designate, this is the second reading, that you designate the site for green reuse. And the reason for doing so is that it allows us to get certain incentives through the program, including more expeditious review by the environmental agency DERM. There's also lender liability protections. We're going to be doing redevelopment, so that's important as well, and different economic incentives as well. So we respectfully request, we've been to, I think we had a committee meeting, and we had a first reading, and this is our second reading. And anyway, Jim's here, he's the consultant, and we're here to answer any questions that you all may have regarding this process or the like. There's no financial or other obligation on behalf of the village. It's only on us that if we go through and agree to this, we get these incentives, which mean we have to sit to a schedule and remediate the property, and Durham reviews it and approves it. So that's what we're requesting.
I have a question. I was not here for the first reading. I was out ill, but I did read the minutes, and I think I saw an email that came through. He's not here tonight, Councilperson Dre, but there was something he was asking for. Was that ever given to us or to him?
Yes, we provided it, and in fact, I think that your village attorney read it into the record at the time when he requested. We had provided it to them, and we read it in the record, and and he acknowledged that he was fine with that at the time, as I recall from the record.
What was it exactly?
It was Jim.
So it was read that same night in the record?
It was the laboratory data for the sampling that we had collected.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure you saw that.
He had requested it in the committee meeting, and then when we came to first reading, I believe,
Okay.
and we read it, and we found it, and he read it into the record. and-
Okay,
And he
perfect.
seemed to be fine at that time.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Okay. I can close the council meeting and open up to the public. Anybody has any questions on this particular resolution? It's a second reading and the final reading. All right, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, open it back to the council. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2015 62nd reading?
A motion.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second? Second by Councilperson Mathis. Any discussion before I request roll call? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I get roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, great,
Thank you
thank you.
so much, and happy holidays to everyone.
And we look forward to seeing something from you all soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, great. I-2 is an ordinance. It is a second reading. Ordinance number 2017-03. Attorney Geller, compensation for councilpersons. If you can please read it to the record.
Ordinance number 2017-03, an ordinance of the Village of El Portal, Florida, providing for compensation for councilpersons, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for severability, providing for repealer, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. This is second reading.
Okay, great. At this time, is there any discussion from the council? All right, hearing none, I'm going to close the council meeting, open up for public hearing with regards to compensation for councilpersons. It was recommended at the budget by one of the members to increase from $3,000 to $4,500 a year per council member, and that's what this second reading is on.
Marilyn Brooks, 400 Northeast 90th Street. I was about to ask about this increase in well, it's a stipend. Who ratifies it, and who decides when you should get a raise or not, or approves it?
It was a recommendation from one of the council members for consideration during our budget review. And per our charter, it's done by ordinance, and this is the second reading.
Okay, so we, the villagers, have no say as to whether we think that you should get a raise or not.
Absolutely. That's why I close up every agenda item for a comment. And this is, this has been this particular item has been at a council meeting 4 times. Twice, first budget hearing, second budget hearing, and final, and the first reading, which was last month, and this is the second reading.
Okay, I did hear something about it last meeting, but I wasn't too sure, and since then, I have asked Erwin for a copy of the finances, so that I wanted to look at it, not that I have that much say, but I think that when you all are gonna get a raise, we, the villager, should have the say, not a council person, because the council person that could recommend it might not even deserve it. So, thank you.
Also, when, this is an ordinance, so just so you know, it has been publicly noted on the newspaper so that we get input from the residents.
Okay, when do we give our inputs and such?
Please, no, at the meetings. And with that, and this is why this is the 4th time it's going up for discussion. We discussed it at the initial budget hearing, the final budget hearing, last council meeting, and now this council meeting.
Yes, I did hear it last meeting, but I wasn't too familiar with what was going on. And since then, I have asked him for a copy so that I wanted to check it, but thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comments, open it up back to the council. Is there a motion to accept ordinance number 2017-03? It's been moved by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Roman. Is there discussion?
Matt.
Any other discussion from the council?
Madam
Hearing
Mayor,
none.
if I may. Yeah, make a comment real quick. I just want to say, for the record, that that the mayor is absolutely correct, that that this has been up for 4 different times, and that I wanted to say that, for the record, that the villagers do have a say. I wanted to point out that when this first came out, and when this was first proposed, it was actually first proposed, originally, we had that long discussion, it was double at the very, very beginning. It was 6,000, and then through discussions, through a resident who was actually also here, who formerly was also on the council, that back and forth, it was reduced
That's the next resolution.
at the end. So the resident did have the say, and because the resident came up and made points that a lot of us agreed with, it actually was reduced. So at the end of the day, I wanted to go on record to say our residents do have the say and the input for things like this.
No. Any other comments from the council?
No.
Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes?
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
The next resolution, as Vice Mayor Nickerson was addressing, is, this is where I was going to reiterate it, then this resolution was, when this initially was proposed, one of the members had suggested 6,000 per council person. Then it was says, no, 6,000 for the mayor and 4,500 for the council. And then I said no, and I said, if we're all going to get the same increase. But before it reads on the record, I want to add, I don't consider this a salary increase. I think it's just enough to cover our expenses, I believe, when we're out there doing things that we don't get reimbursed from the city. I just wanted to add that, okay? And as Vice Mayor Nickerson said, Anna Ward, when she came up and she thought 6,000 was a little bit, I can't remember the word she used. So then we discussed amongst ourselves, and we said, okay, we'll go down to 4,500. So there's always opportunity for the residents to come in and opine and give us their thoughts so that we're always on the same page and hopefully carrying out the will of the residents. So with that said, if I could please have the attorney read the following resolution to the record.
Resolution 2017-38, a resolution of the mayor and village council of the village of El Portal, Florida, to approve amending the budget, modifying certain budgeted line items to decrease compensation for councilpersons, providing for an incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, great, thank you. At this time, I will close the meeting, open up for any public comments as it relates to this resolution. On the podium, please. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
Felix Guzman, 440 Northeast 90th Street. I just don't think it's fair that you get paid the same as other council members. I know that they agreed to it, but you are the face. You have much more responsibility. When something goes wrong, they come after you. So I don't understand, and it's just fine. That's your heart, and you say it's even, and if you agree to it, it's fine. But, you know, the more we give, the more we get back. And it's all good. I just don't agree with it. If you are fine with it, it's fine. But if you all want to toss it out and bring it up again, where she should be paid more, then it should be brought up.
Okay,
Madam Mayor.
thank you, Felix. Yes,
It was designed that the mayor got more than the council members, and she brought it down, so.
thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comments and open it up to the council. Is there a motion to accept Resolution 2017-38?
All motion to accept.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Mathis. Any discussion from the council before I move forward? Madam Clerk, may I get roll call?
Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Great, thank you. Next on line, we have Resolution 2017-39, long overdue, an extension to the waste management contract. Attorney Geller, if you could please read it to the record.
Resolution 2017-39, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, to approve the amendment to extend the agreement with Waste Management, Inc. for collection and disposal of residential solid waste, yard trash, and bulk waste, providing for an incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, great, thank you. At this time, I will close the council meeting, open up for any public comments. This is an extension that'll take us through the end of June with Waste Management, and thereafter we'll go off for bid. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comments, open it up back to the council. Is there a motion to accept Resolution 2017-39?
I move approval.
It's been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion before, any questions on this extension from the council?
I guess since we're on the topic, when will the RFP be sent out?
That's what I was gonna.
February. 2018. Excellent. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, may I get a roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All righty, next we have Resolution 2017-40, 2018 Federal Transit FTA. Attorney Geller, if you can read that into the record.
Resolution 2017-40, resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, approving the 2018 Title VI Federal Transit Administration Program and policies, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, great, thank you. Christie, I think that this was yours. If you want to go ahead and brief us a little bit on why this is on here for us and for the members in the audience.
Yes, this is a reapproval of an interlocal agreement between Village of El Portal and the Federal Transit FTA as it relates to Title VI, which is anti-discrimination laws in employment. So it means that we will be posting signs in our village hall, as well as doing trainings that incorporate non-sexual, eliminating sexual harassment in the workplace and allowing those who experience it to file appropriately with human resources and with the village manager.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'm going to close the council, open it up for public comments. Anybody in the audience would have a question, comments on this particular resolution before it's addressed? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up back to the Council, is there a motion to accept Resolution 2017-40?
Motion.
A motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion before we go to vote? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we're in the last two resolutions, I believe, yes. I added 2 items to the agenda and asked the council that I wanted to address it before these 2 items are addressed. The first item that I added was the Pannoni contract. One of the things that I have, this process is complex, and there's a lot of moving pieces to it. And I'm just going to reiterate briefly that from the get-go, I have been pro the project the whole way. I was just always concerned about the process and how fast it was going, because I want to be sure that we, as a village, are doing everything we need to do to financially cover ourselves and do it right by Pannoni, do right by the village, and by the residents. So with that said, I still have some concerns. We have been working with Pannoni, and if you can come up, we don't have a contract in place. So I want to address the contract, and as well as, as I was briefly, as we've been talking to Joe Gelder, and I'm going to ask him to go ahead and fill us in with where we're at with, because everything ties in together. When we last met, I think it was October, there was language that needed to be updated on the contract. Is that correct? Okay. Of which I've not received, and I don't think you all have received. The point we're at right now is we're receiving bills from you that need to get paid. But at the same time, we need to be sure that we are going to get this loan, that we're going to get all this great stuff, but there's no contract in place. So I don't feel comfortable even discussing these resolutions if we don't have a contract in place. That's number one. And I want to see where we're at. And I'm putting this on the agenda because I'm not having the success I'd like with Joe Gelder on the phone or on email, because this should not be taking this long. So, and the benefit to the council to be aware of it, and as well as Pannoni, I need to know where we're at with the Pannoni contract, as I'm the one that's got to sign checks along with the manager, and I saw 2 bills today. And clearly you want to get paid for your work, as you so well deserve. So with that said, where are we at with the language that needed to be added to the contract?
Well, let me say, first of all, that the 2 resolutions are not related to that directly. There's no reason not to proceed with the resolutions.
We're going to talk about the next H2 for the resolution. So let's address one thing at a time, please.
Okay.
We're talking about the Pannoni
But the
contract.
resolutions, as you say, they relate to each other. The resolutions are to authorize an application to the state, just an application.
Joe Geller, let's address H1. I want to know where, because H2
Mayor,
is going to
I'm
talk about the
answering you
residents.
now. Excuse me.
So
Do you
let's
want
talk,
to hear
where are
the
we at with the
answer?
Pannoni?
I'll be happy to answer. I'm
With
answering.
all due respect, where are we at with the Pannoni contract?
We sent, as you know, a request to CITT to see if they would approve the funding coming from CITT. Apparently, that had not been done previously, and we were all under the impression that that had been previously approved. It was not. We got a response, finally, in writing from Mr. Toledo that was favorable. You indicated in an email to me, and properly, I think, that you weren't comfortable with the fact that we just had this very short email from Mr. Toledo. I then wrote back to them, even though, let me add, that I was careful to be sure that the county attorney's office has copied on my request to them, which you'd asked for, which I did send you, and he's copied on the assistant county attorney who handles this, on their response. Nonetheless, I agree with you that we could have something more formal and it would be a good idea. I've requested that confirmation from them. To date, it has not been forthcoming. The original amendment to the contract we were going to make was to make it contingent on receiving the funding from the state of Florida. And there was some language issue with that, because it's not just contingent on them saying, yes, we could go ahead and spend money. We don't have money to spend on this unless we get the money from the state of Florida. as it develops, we need the same assurance, frankly, from CITT. So until we have something a little more definitive, as you requested, and I don't disagree with you, from CITT, we will need a further change in the proposed language of the contract, because if CITT does not fund us, we're also going to have a problem. And as soon as we receive something from CITT that says, yes, we will fund you, and it is definitive, as you requested, we can insert that language in the contract and finalize the contract. Until then, I'm concerned that we're still exposing the village to some risk if we don't receive that funding.
Okay, well, I completely agree with that. And which takes us to the second point, which is I put CITT legal written opinion, because both these resolutions, if you read them, it says CITT on them. The applications I had to sign, and it's my signature, my name, clearly states that CITT is allowed to be used, which is why I was resistant in signing them, because I don't have a legal opinion. But I was basically forced or asked that I have to do this, but this is the final step in the reso, and I'm not prepared to pass the reso. I mean, the council at their will can, but I'm not going to if I don't have a written opinion. So it's tied all together,
Well,
as I said
let me
earlier.
say,
It's tied
first
all
of all,
together.
You have a written opinion from me. I put it in writing that you were authorized, in my opinion, to go ahead and execute the applications. Having said that, let me be clear on what these applications say themselves and on what the resolution says. It is carefully worded. The resolution, both resolutions say that we're authorized to submit an application. I don't disagree with you that we should get something more definitive. We've requested it. Now, as far as a legal opinion, let me just clarify, because I thought there was some confusion. I'd hoped I'd cleared that up. The county attorney does not work for us. The county attorney works for its client. In the same way that if the gentleman who's filming us tonight asked me for a legal opinion about something with the village, I don't give that opinion to him. I give legal opinions to my client, that is the city council and the manager. The county attorney gives legal opinions to county agencies. He's not necessarily, or any of them are not necessarily going to write a legal opinion to us. But we can expect something, I agree, a little more definitive than an email from our project rep. It would be nice to have something on their letterhead, preferably from the executive director, that they've gotten their legal opinion to them from the county attorney's office. By the way, if there is any kind of condition or stipulation that they place on the funds, I surely want to know that as well, because if there is, that also needs to be included in our contract. When we submit this, but just let me be clear again, based on what we've gotten so far, I am comfortable, and I've expressed this in writing and I will say it on the record, I'm comfortable with our submitting an application to the state of Florida. It is apparently a time-sensitive issue. When the application is approved, as we are told it will be, we will receive final documents that require our signature. Till that point, the village of El Portal still has the privilege of saying, thank you for approving our application, but we have elected not to proceed with this loan because we can't fund the remaining 20%, and we've had some issue with that. That being said, to simply submit an application, and that's what both of these resolutions say, on the basis of what we have, and based on the fact that it's time sensitive, it is my opinion that we are authorized to submit an application, let the state process it, let the state act on it. When they're ready to issue funds and give us documents, final loan documents that we need to sign, I certainly hope by that point that we will have in place sufficient assurances from the county, from Miami-Dade County, that will enable us to move forward and sign the loan documents. I see no reason why we can't simply submit the application in the meantime, because the indication we have is that it is satisfactory to CITT, although, as I said, they haven't told us whether or not there are going to be any conditions or stipulations they may seek to impose. So that's where we are. I think we can approve these resolutions, but I agree that we want something, certainly before we sign loan documents and accept the money, we need to know that we're going to have the CITT funds with something a little more definitive than what we've received so far. I do think we should get the application.
Okay, so the applications, both of them, that I have to sign, clearly states in there that we are going to use CITT money.
Yes.
But we don't even know if we're gonna be allowed. So, I'm not done yet. So we're gonna allow you to go through this whole process. Maybe we don't get a letter from CITT like we would like. So when it comes to the actual loan documents, we're not gonna have a real, a funding source to pay this back. So how's Pannoni gonna get paid? So when is it, so it just, in my opinion, I understand this is only an application, but we're falsely saying that we are comfortable that CITT is truly gonna be allowing us to use the money that, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Just as you want that letter so the contract is sufficient that has to be done with Pannoni, I think that even for the application, we should have it. So we're gonna go ahead and sign application, and again, I know you said our signature, it's not our signature, it's my signature. And we're gonna send it to the state, and we don't even know if what we're sending is even, we're just gonna hope and pray that we get this letter, and if we don't, we're gonna have to, I mean, I think Erwin showed us something, another outlet that we could potentially use. I just think it's misleading to put in an application a source that we don't even know. It's a gamble right now, and
Mayor, let me just say, at the point when we had only verbal commitments from CITT, I said we could not proceed with the application.
well,
We
with all due respect, I mean, we wouldn't be here today if things were done differently and better, because the former manager has been talking about CITT, and I have been asking this over and over, and you've been at this meetings, Attorney Geller, like we all have been, and I feel bad because now we're here because there's certain things that weren't done right. So, and it's not fair to anybody involved, but because all of this should have been done in April and May of earlier this year. So we're not at this point when we're meeting a deadline and we're all pressed because the deadline is upon us and things have to get signed. And this is exactly what I said I did not want to be in. And it's exactly the position that we are in and that I'm in. I mean, and you can sit there and laugh and think it's funny, but I don't. But I don't at all. I mean, it's offensive that we're at this point and everybody's like, yeah, go do it. Well, you sign the application.
Mayor, I don't know what you're talking about as far as laughing or thinking this is
So
funny. I don't think this is
at this
funny
time,
at all.
no, I don't at
However,
all.
let me say that the fact is that having received an email that said these funds are available, again, it doesn't comment on whether there might be some stipulations or conditions that we might find acceptable, but I do disagree that it would be false for us to submit an application to the state based on the information and written response that we've received. And since we might lose the funding source, I think that it is appropriate at this time to submit the application. And I'm hopeful that we're able to force the issue and get a more definitive response from CITT. If not, as you indicate, I've been led to believe there could be other funding sources available as well that we could pursue. But since they've said yes and not no, although in a bit of an informal manner, I don't see the problem. And by the way, it's not only your signature. I'm going to be called on to submit, and the state does require an opinion from local government council, in this case for me, which I'm also, based on the
But Joe Geller, you have clearly said to the manager and to me that you are not doing it until you get a written letter from CITT.
No, ma'am,
Did he not say that?
no. Till the
Oh,
residents.
of course, so once again, the mayor and the council has to do all of that first, and then, of course, you will do it afterwards. I mean,
When the resolution is
it
passed,
just-
I
it
will
just-
then issue my written opinion to the state.
I'm gonna open
that
it up
is
to the council if
properly
they have any,
done.
if they have any
May
questions.
I say something?
In a minute, please. I haven't opened it up. I want the council to have any, if they have any questions.
So I have a question, Joe. When did you request, you said that earlier, in your comments that you requested a confirmation, but you have not received it. So when did you request that confirmation?
They sent us like a two-line approval and an email. And I don't know, I think it was like right before Thanksgiving and right after, I think, is when I said we need something more definitive. So I guess that would be 3 weeks ago, something.
Okay, and then how soon do you expect them to reply to you?
Frankly, I hoped to have it tonight, and in addition, because I know that Benoni has government affairs representatives of their own, I contacted their government affairs representative, and he was undertaking to do it, but apparently he ended up in the hospital, and he wasn't able quite to get that to completion. I mean, I don't understand why it's taken quite this long already. Do I hope that we'll have it by the first of the year? I certainly do, but again, they don't work for us. They move at their own pace, but I think I was very clear. I copied the manager and the mayor as far as our request. I don't think that they're not up to anything. I mean, the guy wrote back very clearly, this is approved, but it should be on letterhead. It should be in the form of a more definitive letter. And if there are any conditions or stipulations that might affect our ability to accept it, we should know that.
Okay. And then who is the person that sent the email, and what is their title?
Nestor Toledo, I'm not sure, he is our, quote, rep from CITT, but I'm not sure if I know his exact title. I could try to look it up. But he's not the executive director of the agency. He is the person who represents the county in dealings with the village of El Portal. So, you know, it is arguable that what we have is enough. If there were a problem, I wouldn't hesitate to try to enforce it based on what we have. But rather than rely on that, I'd rather simply get it right from them in a more formal fashion now, while we can do so before we find ourselves in a position of having to enforce it against them. It's not unclear. It's just a little informal. The mayor indicated she wasn't comfortable. I don't disagree with that, and I don't want to be in the position where we, at some point down the road, have somebody else say, well, you know, he's really not the person who's supposed to do that. Let's have it be something that, and there's a legal term called estoppel that says you cannot deny that which you've done. I think that we've already got an estoppel argument against them if we move forward, but that's an argument you raise in litigation. I don't want to have litigation.
And then, I guess for Benoni, my question to you is, in your past, I know you mentioned there's only been a few smaller cities, none in Miami-Dade. And pardon my ignorance, is CITT strictly a Miami-Dade thing?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Oh, so my question would not apply.
It's Dade County.
Dade County, okay,
Yes.
never mind. That question would not apply.
I don't know how other cities may have financed the balance of it, but again, if you're a bigger city, it's not as much of an issue as it is for us. Even the 20% for us is potentially a problem, and there are other legal issues with pledging general revenues. I don't want to get us too far in the weeds, but if you pledge general revenues for something like this, as opposed to a dedicated funding source, it may require voter approval. So to just avoid that, I mean, if there's another, for instance, a quote, stormwater fund is one that we've been told might be available. great, but, you know, right now, that would be something we'd be pursuing if we'd gotten a no. We've gotten a yes, but we need to have it nailed down, and whatever it reflects has got to be included in our final contract with Benoni, because if for some reason the county, I don't know, we could enforce it against the county if it was sufficiently clear, rather not have to do that on the basis of what we have. But if the county didn't pay us, we would have a problem, just as if we would have a problem if for some reason the state paid us, and our contract has to be contingent on the fact that we're gonna receive those funds.
Okay, and my last question, if I may, is, if I'm not mistaken, this has been discussed for about 3 months now. And so, I'm concerned with the time frame that it's taken, and the lack, if I may say, of urgency, or what appears to be the lack of urgency. And so if the request was only submitted about 3 weeks ago because the response was received right before Thanksgiving, and we go back to 3 months ago, what has been the delay?
We had previous conversations with them. They were first verbal conversations. We asked for something in writing. Ultimately, we got something in writing from them. That took some time as well. At first, there was a question as to whether or not this was even an acceptable funding source. We had all been told earlier that this was going to be done in this fashion from the previous manager.
Okay, so more so for my review, what I would like to see is dates of when communication has been sent out or has been followed up on.
I may not be able to give you the dates of the phone calls. I'll have to go back and see, but we can certainly do it as to the written.
I would like to see that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any of the members of the council?
Madam Mayor. 1 second. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Mayor Cabillos, for the attorney, my manager. I know you guys have been working hard on this. Councilperson Roman, you had great questions. Some of them are down here, so I appreciate that. I would just like to kind of, which I have here, which like who wrote the email and all that I have here is one of them also. So when they're saying that, I guess we have kind of verbal confirmation that the funds are available. Are we talking about the funds for El Portal individually, or is it just the funds in total for all of Dade County?
El Portal receives, CITT is Citizens
Yeah.
Independent Transportation Transit, something like that. I'm pardon if I have the acronym incorrect. And generally, that funding is used for road projects. We've used it for our bus benches. We've used it for other multiple things. And all projects, when using that money, is anything from the road and above. I spoke to Nexter Toledo myself. I don't remember the date that you gave me, the initial application, or when I got this, and we had to sign it right away, and all of this started happening, because it was months ago. And I called Nestor myself. And based on my conversation is when I called the attorney Geller, because the name escapes me, but the former executive director of the CITT had also said absolutely not, based on your description of the project, Mayor. So this is when it's all been, it's sort of been going on, and the questions started festering as to why now, but so on and so forth. So with that said, CITT is given to each, all 34 municipalities in Miami-Dade County. They get a portion based on different components, whether it's size and so on and so forth. But we get it, I believe, quarterly. I can't remember off the top of my head. And generally, it's used for projects that is above the streets.
Yeah, which was,
You can fix the streets. You can buy bus benches. You can buy a trolley, or anything that deals with transit.
yeah. So which is great, which is, see, there's a lot of things So that was like the gist of my final question, which was, through that verbal communication, was that verbal communication clear that El Portal is receiving the money that we need and for this particular project above ground?
Wait, what's the
What the
question?
mayor
Wait, what is your
says
question?
is correct, though.
I didn't understand your question.
Yeah,
What is-
so,
Was it clear that we were to receive funds from them?
But-
They
but-
give it,
The thing, we get the funds regardless, but we have to use
but-
it. I think the missing component here is we don't know who David Roseman spoke to and who gave him the idea that this could be used.
that's what I was saying.
We don't know that,
Yeah,
and I
but-
don't think there's anything in writing. I don't know if it's something he just assumed, he thought. I don't, that's really a question
Yeah.
for Warner. I don't know if they had that conversation.
So that's
So-
what I was asking, if we received, because I'm hearing verbal communication, did we receive verbal communication that we were receiving the money for this type of
No,
project?
we don't, we receive the money regardless.
No, I understand.
We must comply.
Used,
We
yes.
must comply with the way it's
That's
used.
what-
I
I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we have to comply with the way that it's used.
Yeah.
Many cities have gotten in trouble, and I'm not gonna name any, that they've misused these type of funds. And then you have the state that comes in, and we don't want that. And that's why this is a really a serious conversation, because when the county or the state gives you money, you must use it properly.
Yeah, that's what I have written down
There's
here.
guidelines onto how you can use it, what you can use it for,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
And that's what I have written
Vice
down
Mayor,
here.
it was sometime, I think around August, when we were on the break. And the mayor, as she correctly reflects, had a conversation with the same person, Mr. Toledo. And what we were told was that he was, quote, not comfortable, whatever that means, with our using the funds for this purpose. Based on that, and to try to clarify, as we started to look at other possible alternative sources with the new manager, because there was not only no paper trail, nothing that we could confirm that Mr. Roseman had even had a conversation with anyone. As of this time, we don't know that.
Did we
So-
call him?
Yes. And based on the fact that we couldn't confirm anything other than it looked, quote, promising, then the mayor gets told, I'm not comfortable with that. So that's when, I guess it was, I couldn't tell you if it was September or October, we sent a formal letter saying, this is the project. Pannoni furnished us with a good description that we attached, so there was no question as to what it was that we were seeking funding for, because the project descriptions were there, so they couldn't say, oh, we didn't know, we didn't understand. We sent them that, and we asked for a written position. At that point, and I think my recollection is that I'd had a conversation with Mr. Toledo before we put it in writing, and he indicated what they were looking for. I then sent that to them, and then we got a response a few weeks later that said, yes, we could use it for this purpose. I said, I had told the mayor, of course, Mr. Toledo not being an attorney, him just saying so didn't make me comfortable, so I had talked to him about involving the county attorney, and my request to them, I copied the assistant county attorney, so he received it, and when Mr. Toledo responded, he copied the assistant county attorney. But, does that absolutely indicate that there was no objection? If we were gonna be in court, the fact that he'd received it both from me and from them, yeah, I think that would tend to support our position that there was no objection. But again, that's if we're in court. We don't want to be in court. So after we got that, we then wrote back and said, no, the mayor, again, I don't disagree at all. The mayor said we could do more than this. We've asked for a formal written opinion. I hope it's going to be forthcoming.
I just don't want to be told later that we can't use.
Right.
Well, exactly.
That's my
So
concern.
does anyone have access right now to that email and can read it into the record as to verbatim, as to what it said?
That's what I'm looking for now.
Yeah, but it's,
I think it's important for us to as a council, to understand what that email read verbatim. Because to me, I can interpret things my way, emails are left, communications left to interpretation. And so it's important, I can't vote, or I'm listening to sides and I can't really make a decision unless I know everything. And at this point in time, I don't have all the facts. And it seems like, our accountant has something to say.
Yeah,
and
give me a second.
I'm
I'll get to,
Yeah, I'm
Erwin.
interested in hearing that.
I'm gonna go to my sent.
While we wait for that, what is the deadline of this application?
You can come up, Steve.
The application was submitted this week, Monday or Tuesday this week.
So it was submitted.
It was submitted. What's that?
Incomplete application?
Missing the resolution and the legal opinion, but, and that's okay. That, I'm gonna say 4 out of 5 of the projects that we do are missing that at the time, and what they'll do is they'll use that final, I hate to even use the word application, but it technically is, but it's the final documentation for their underwriting process, so they can prepare an agreement to come back to you. And typically what they do, if the resolution and the legal opinion is not attached, they'll prepare it and they'll bring it, when they give their approval, they'll require that to come back with the final signed, council-approved agreement. So ideally, it should be submitted at the same time, but like I said, about 4 out of 5 of them, it's not done that way, just because there's usually a rush and you're trying to beat a deadline.
So if the application was already submitted, and we're waiting for that, then in reality, we don't need to pass this resolution today.
Well, you
No.
do need the resolution, because the funding source is the linchpin on it all.
I understand we need the resolution. What I'm saying is that it's not pressing that we pass the resolution today, and perhaps we can move this to January? If we still have questions, and this is not answered, and the application has already been submitted, then I don't see why the urgency of passing this resolution today, and why we would not be able to move it to January, although all of us want to move on.
Well, the big issue for us is that we have to be done with $600,000 worth of work by March. And if all these paper that prevents contracts from getting executed and agreements being put in place, we need paid for that work. So every month that goes by, it puts us in a more precarious position.
Okay, so it's payment to
Yes,
Leone.
if you can pay those bills, then okay.
What
Okay,
is
got
the amount?
But this is gonna allow, as soon as you get this done, you give their bank account and they'll wire money to your checking account to pay the bills. So this is why this is important.
Okay.
What's the amount?
But
What's the
I
amount
think in
of
all
outstanding
this,
bill?
I think
I see
Mr.
my
Irwin
manager has that.
has some really good input that I think would be pertinent to this if you're even contemplating postponing the resolution.
I'd like to hear Erwin, if we're ready, while we're still looking for that email.
I still don't know what the
Just two things. Even up to 4 days ago, I talked to Nestor.
Give
and
me
he
1
said
second.
Nestor Toledo, CITT, and he said that both are going to be acceptable for both our projects. But that aside, let's assume that they're not. I did some research and printed out the regs. The local option gas tax money can be used, and it states right in the statute, not only that can it be used, but you can use it as collateral against grants and loans, and we have a fund balance of $200,000. So even if the CITT is not applicable, and I assume that even if we've applied for the application, when those docs come back, we can change who the funding source is, and we're going to use as collateral against the loan. So it won't even be an issue.
So the question I asked, I believe, to our interim manager is, then why don't we just use that from the get-go? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? I mean,
You got to remember that you had a manager that didn't involve anybody in anything, and no one knew what was going on, and there was no document trail, so, I mean, I was out of the loop on it altogether.
No, I understand that, and so was I for that matter, but that's not the point. The point is that the application just came before us in August and he was already gone, so why couldn't we, and you showed me that, and I felt much more comfortable with that because that was a statute, that was a law.
Well, the reason I looked is because I assumed that we were going to use the CITT because that's what David originally had said he was going to pledge.
Right.
But when it
Right.
became a concern, I did further research to see if there were any other funding sources we could use to pledge as collateral against the loan. And then I was able to find
Yeah,
the.
no, I-
But Mayor, one note of caution on that. Let me just say, I mean, I think it's great, and there's the gas tax, and there's also the stormwater fund possibly. And those are terrific, and, you know, I really want to commend the CFO for taking the initiative and looking into them. If we were to switch to using those, every source of funds has a governing body. Everyone has somebody that audits the use of those funds to make sure that funds are used properly. So if we were to switch, we would be asking someone else for what we're asking CITT for. I would still want in writing from whoever it is that administers those things, yes, this is a proper use of gas tax or stormwater, and they would have to go through their internal processes to give us that answer in writing in a way that we could rely on it, because we're still not going to take it on an assumption or verbally. This one looks like it's close, I think, to being done. If we start over again, we can probably get it. Maybe they'll move faster, but we still need to get something in black and white, even though I don't have any reason to disagree with Irwin's assessment. I believe he's correct.
But I printed it out, so if you want,
I actually have it right here in my hands.
Yeah.
And this came out of a meeting that the three of us, and we had you on phone conference with Pannoni, and we discussed funding sources. Irwin and I were tasked with finding the other two, gas tax and stormwater. We found it. These documents are right here. So this has already been done. I provided it to you all with that information. Irwin and I have identified these. We have it in black and white. They are set, but we were still waiting for CITT. I said, these are ready. We can move forward.
And let me just say, though, that notwithstanding that we have the regulations, people interpret regulations. I still want to get at least a writing from whoever it is, their different bodies that do this, that says, yes, we agree, this is the kind of project that those regulations cover. I'd still want something to confirm that.
Okay, correct. Now, if I may, I'd like to understand and hear from our interim village manager as to what is your feel? How do you feel about moving forward with these two options?
Well, just hearing what the village attorney said about he'd like more documentation. I mean, I think we do have it in black and white. Irwin Williams made the phone calls, spoke to people directly. We got those confirmations, but we didn't proceed with getting like the actual writing because we were waiting, we were asked to wait and just have those ready in case the CITT didn't work out. So then when we got the email from our village attorney that stated, well, this is sufficient enough for me, then we didn't pursue it, but we certainly can.
Yeah, but also keep in mind that even though the attorney sent that, I immediately responded that this was not sufficient in my opinion.
Right.
Because just because someone does not reply to an email, we cannot assume that they agree with what they saw.
I agree with you.
Because they could have not have read it.
All I tried to say was that we could move forward at this point with the applications, but I agree with you. We need something, and that's why I asked for it after you said what you said. We need something that is not questionable. We want something completely definitive from somebody who's clearly authorized to issue that opinion and that upon which we can rely. So, we've asked for that, and you're not wrong to ask for that. All I said was that since we have something in writing saying it, I don't have an issue with submitting an application, since the final documents will still come back to you for approval before we accept the funds. It's just an application.
Okay, my question still was not answered by Cristia, our interim manager. I would like to know if you are comfortable moving forward with the email and moving forward with this resolution tonight based on the email that you received, that everybody received from CITT, from Nestor, or moving forward with the resolution knowing that we have a possible backup?
The answer is yes, I'm perfectly comfortable with that, knowing that we have the backup. And if necessary, if everyone else is more comfortable, we can replace the CITT language with stormwater or gas tax, if that's more comforting to you. But we do have
Sure.
those two in writing.
It would be a separate list.
Okay. Well, it has to be a different one.
Yeah, and just to kind of frame the risk here, we're at step one of the project, and this is just an underwriting exercise, and regardless of what fund you all end up taking money out of to actually pay the bill for, even if you just stop after this phase one, part one, it's going to be 2 years down the road before you have to pay this back, because DEP will pay the bills till you don't have to pay anything back until 6 months after you construct something. So the money doesn't have to be paid for like 2 years from now, number one.
Yeah, but we don't want to be at that point from 2 years from now
I
where
get
it's
it.
like
I get
trying
it.
to figure out what's going on.
I
know.
My question
Absolutely.
question is, are we pushing this forward so Pannoni gets paid and then we're out here? Or are we pushing this forward because it needs to be done?
Let me tell you, I appreciate you all asking how the manager and the attorney feels, but you know what? I've been doing this 9 years. And in the last couple of years, for some reason, every time I say something and everybody does not go that way, I end up being right. I'm in this situation right now, when 9 months ago, I wish I would have been much more involved in the process, because we would not be here today. I can guarantee you that. But there's so many moving pieces, and I appreciate the hours meeting that we had. There's a lot of moving pieces because there's no guarantees. We have a statue that looks great. We have Nestor, who's a buddy and has said okay, but when the dust settles, then to put that in writing, and then the application went out, and then it come back, and then during the whole time, you've got to get paid. We have bills right there. You got to get paid. The village has to pay that. We don't have that budgeted. We have that budgeted like it's going to come back to us. So again, I'm at the will of the council. You only need 3 votes to make this pass, but I'm not comfortable because I'm the one signing it. And I don't want to be right here again, and I'm being right, because we're all looking, we don't have to pay it in 2 years, and you're thinking, we can use gas tax. We don't, that's all great in theory. Everything's great. But I'm sorry, and I'll say it again, I've been doing this way too long. I want it in writing. Just like you want your contract? Just like the state of Florida wants their application? Everybody wants it in writing. The attorney wants it, so do I. So do I. I don't think I'm asking for a lot. And again, I'll say it again, it is my signature that I had to sign on those 2 applications. It's gonna be our signatures on this reso right now. And then when the dust settles, they're not gonna call any council person up here, they're gonna go look to the mayor.
So if I could.
Why didn't you dot every I and cross every T? Well, I'm trying to.
Can
Yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead.
I was actually going to say something of the same, because we have a situation where we receive funding for a particular project, and I always said we should give the money back because it was done wrong. But for me, you know, I'm with the mayor. I want every I double dotted and every T crossed twice, because I don't want us in a situation where we're out there with our hand out to try to, you know, robbing Paul to pay Peter. I don't want that situation. It's.
So to go along with that, I completely agree, every city.
And you gotta get, hey, listen, nothing for nothing, but you gotta get paid too. I mean, I
What-
get that, you know, and it's.
I'm just being
it's-
practical with all the moving parts, you know, this isn't the first time that this has been done. What I'm hearing is that CITT has there's some questions with it. You know, maybe you have an opinion, it may not be strong enough, but what we're talking about is 2 years from now, and the amount of money we're talking about is $4,700 a year for the sewer project, and we're talking $8,700 a year for the stormwater project. That's the kind of dollars that have to start to be paid back 2 years from now. It would seem that, because, you know, this is a typical situation where a utility, this is only small towns doing this. You don't have a historical utility fund that generates money to pay this back. So there's always something, a new fund that's being used to secure this. But picking the easiest, the less, you know, whatever you're most comfortable with, whether it's stormwater, whether it's the gas tax, whatever it is, for the underwriting process, so whatever you're most comfortable with, that's what you might want to consider for the resolution. If there's any doubt with the CITT, that way this can move forward, the agreement can be put in place, and, you know, step one right now with the design, this is the inexpensive part, where it's really important probably getting the CITT answer is when you get to construction, which is going to be like April, May. So that's definitely, because now you're talking about $80,000 a year to actually pay back the construction. That's when so that's probably the bigger of the two concerns. But any of the money, I'm sure, you know, certainly you want to be able to pay it back with something that's legal. But I'm hearing that you have 3 potential sources or more, and you could use the general fund if you want. It just, you have to submit more documentation. You could commit that.
But you know, listen, I
But
know
I'm not
it's,
saying to do that.
but listen,
We're not-
it's great to say, you know, we don't have to pay us back in 2 years. We don't know if we're gonna go through a crisis. We don't know if the homes are, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, home value's gonna go down. We could have a huge, recession,
Hurricane.
you know, like a hurricane that can knock out our entire, I mean, that's all in theory great that we don't have to pay this until 2 years, you know, sort of like getting a credit card and you pay it in 3 years. Yeah, no. I mean, we can't,
Madam
no.
Mayor,
Yeah,
if I
go
may.
ahead.
I just want to say, very quickly, thanks for coming out tonight. How you doing?
Great.
When the new council was set, and the best council ever, when this new council was set, I remember the mayor and myself and Councilperson Mathis, we reflected, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but we were talking about, because we have been up here for so many years, and we were talking about how in the past we were promised things. And most of the time it was just, you know, this is what's happening and everything's going to work out, right? And it was consistent. This is what's going on and everything's going to work out. And we looked up, and years later, this didn't work out, and this didn't work out, and this didn't work out. And then we said, when we set the new council, that we're not going to do it that way anymore. Like, we just can't afford to do it that way anymore with just verbal promises. So all we want is we just need it officially in writing, so that we know it's 100% for sure. We did that for so many years. I'm not comfortable with going back to that way of doing things, Madam Mayor. Like, I'm just not comfortable with going back to that. We did that for so many years, and we got burnt, and we didn't even know we were getting burnt until we look back
Years
on
later.
everything, and it's like, oh my Lord, like, we got burnt on so many different things just by, don't worry about that, you guys. It'll work out, like, it'll be okay. I just, I don't know, I can't go back to the way of doing things.
So the timeline on this, we submitted the application. It takes, we're doing everything we can to push DEP to get the agreement done within 30 days to come back. Would it be reasonable to get in writing within 30 days? I mean, because you can always switch whatever your pledge.
So we just found that email.
Let me read that into the record. Yeah, the email is dated, I think you just lost it.
December 4th.
Let me find it again. Okay, Monday, December 4th for Mr. Toledo, to me, copy to Bruce Libhaber of the County Attorney's Office. And it says the two projects mentioned below are both eligible uses of the surtax funds. They are both qualify under the transportation piece. That's the extent of what it said. And we wrote back and asked for a more formal written opinion.
The projects, can they be read, what were the projects? What was sent to them?
I sent you a copy of that, but what it was is I got two project descriptions of the two projects from Mr. Elias and attached that to my email requesting a determination.
And we stressed the road component, because when you put a sewer pipe down the road, you have to repave the entire road. You have to rebuild the road. So we stressed that there is certainly a road component and the drainage part to the projects.
So basically, if I may, this was 2 weeks ago, December 4th, that we got that approval. I'm still concerned, and I know that this is not, but this is something that we need to discuss during our admin and finance, because I'm very concerned with how long this has taken. We've been discussing this for a very long time, and the fact that we just received that email on December 4th and don't have anything in writing, that to me is a huge concern, because that's an internal concern that we have, and that if we don't fix this, we will continue to have issues as we're moving forward, especially with this huge project. So that, I just want to put into the record that that's a huge concern to me. It has nothing to do with you.
Okay, so those are my two agenda items. I don't know what the will of the council is with regards to the rezos. I'm only one person. I've already stated where I'm coming from. And with that said, any other discussion with regards to what are my two agenda
I can
items?
share my comments in regards to how I feel. So my comments are that based on the response that the mayor has received from CITT first, that this project was not going to be possible with CITT funds, that's a concern to me. It's also a concern that they then came back. When I read that email, I feel that we can take that to court. I'm not an attorney, but it's pretty clear to me in that email that they're stating that yes, especially if we sent the documentation. But I have not been here long enough to know how everything works. And if that's not sufficient, I don't want to sit in us to sit in a courtroom. I asked how the interim village attorney feels, because she's handling and managing the village. The fact that she feels comfortable makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. The fact that our CFO feels that we have alternatives, that makes me feel more comfortable. I'm still kind of, I understand Pannoni needs to get paid. Again, my huge concern is how long this has taken, because we've dragged our feet and the follow-up, and we would not, this meeting today, we would not be sitting here on this topic for this long if this was taken care of months ago. So for me, at this time, I like to hear how the rest of the council feels aside, in moving forward, but that's how, I'm kind of still on the fence because of what we've received from CITT in the past. We do now have something in writing, which I think it's stronger, but it's not like a letterhead, as the attorney has said, so those were just my comments and how I feel about this situation.
Anything else from the council?
I mean, the thing that sticks out to me the most is from the same individual what the mayor went through in the beginning and what we gone through recently, because like who says that that's the end, right? So like at first it's like, oh no, that's not doable, and then it's like, oh yes, that is doable. But who says?
What changed?
Yeah, like what changed all of a sudden? Who said they won't come back and be like, oh, but by the way, that's actually not doable. You know what I mean? So that's my concern. So to get that on letterhead would alleviate a lot of that concern, I think, to make it more official.
Did that individual change his opinion after he got the detailed description of the project? Or
I had a lengthy conversation with him and pressed him, and then we also sent him the project descriptions that you had drafted that we forwarded to him.
so before, he didn't have the benefit of seeing the description
That's my understanding.
on the initial comment?
He definitely didn't have it from us.
Okay.
We can just get
Councilperson Mathis?
I saved my piece.
Alrighty, so at this time, I'll have the attorney read the resolution into the record, and we see if there is a will of the council to move this forward.
Resolution number 2017-41, a resolution of the Village of El Portal, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances for project financing of project number SW1320L, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts and severability, providing for an effective date.
All right, great, thank you. At this time, I'm going to close the meeting for public comment. Anybody at this time would like to come in and ask any questions with regards to this resolution, which is what we've been discussing for the last 20 minutes or so. Bless you.
Felix Guzman, 440 Northeast 90th Street. I'm no rocket scientist, but I see a lot of red flags with this. I heard a lot of informal. I hope. I'd rather it be more clear than unclear. And honestly, in any contract, doesn't matter what kind, everything needs to be stupid-proof. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Any other resident? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comments. And is there a motion to approve Resolution 2017-41?
All motion.
Motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
No, second.
It's seconded by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Councilperson Roman.
No.
Councilperson Mathis.
No.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
No.
Mayor Cubillos.
No.
Motion fails.
Resolution 2017-42.
Resolution of the Village of El Portal, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances for project financing of project number WW1320C, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts and severability, providing for an effective date.
This is the second portion to the application that we have been discussing. So at this time, I'll close the council meeting and open up for any public comments. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comments, open it up back to the council meeting. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2017-42?
All motion.
A motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion from the dais before I move to roll call? All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilperson Roman.
No.
Councilperson Mathis. Vice Mayor Nickerson.
No.
Mayor Cubillos.
No.
Motion fails.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
is there any way that, contingent upon any further information we get, that we can, maybe look to put these on our January meeting?
Yeah, I'm going to close by, this by saying that, it's not like this is over. We have to do our due diligence, you know, and, I asked the council to please assist me and the manager with, as it relates to, it's really an opinion that's going to come, the attorney would call and reach out to, both, I guess, agencies. I mean, I think we should do both. We got to face reality. We are in holidays right now. It's one of the toughest, hopefully people are working. But it doesn't mean that we cannot. I think conversations on the phone are great, but I think we need to email. I think we need to email, and I think we need to, that's documentation as to when it's getting done. And I would like to believe that we're going to get one or the other. We get something a little more tight as it relates to a real approval. I want this to move forward when we've come this far. This is not over. We just can't drop the ball and leave. You know, I'm really hoping that the administration is going to be accountable to do their part. This is not where the council comes in. This is not their responsibility. It's a responsibility of the administration to see this through.
I have a comment that I'd like to make. I'd like for us to consider looking at seeking outside counsel for this project.
I don't know what it's going to take. I just would like to get a yes or a no. Because, you know, residents are excited about this. People need to get paid. Project needs to move forward. You know, this is something that we're, as a service, we're doing for our community. But I am sure that if we had residents in this audience, they would want us to ensure that we are holding everybody accountable and dotting every I and crossing every T. So, you want to say something? No.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let you know that Erwin Williams and I mean, we have stayed on task in terms of our portion of the whole situation here, and we will continue to do that. So we will seek those necessary written authorizations.
I mean, I think as soon as we get them, if we need to meet before the next January meeting, I mean, you know, as long as we're meeting and we have definitive answers, I mean, I'm okay with that. And whoever's gonna get it for us has just gotta get it for us. So.
Again, I think we may want to seek outside counsel to help our attorneys with this project. This has been a very painful process.
And it's taken a little long to get answers. And I understand and as I go into my mayor's report, I'm gonna touch into a lot of what we've done and what I'd like things to be in 2018. But with that said, I mean, we can discuss that at the admin and finance meeting. I think that we need to, you know, legal opinions are necessary. And having an attorney is necessary, and getting it reduced to writing is necessary. And we know that. So, if the council has any comment on Councilperson Roman's recommendation, this is the time to say so. If not, we're moving forward. Vice Mayor Nickerson, Councilperson Mathis.
I'm comfortable, either way, Madam Mayor, whatever the council as a whole decides.
Councilperson Mathis?
I think that, I don't know, I think that, Attorney Geller has started the process. If he has enough, enough of his foot in the process, then maybe he can complete the process, but, I'm at the mercy of the majority of the council, like every other council member.
Councilperson Mathis?
I'd like to see the communication change before I make a decision.
The communication change as it relates to,
Getting an answer that clearly would. meet.
well, I would, the benefit of everybody, we've been at this since October council meeting, and I hope it doesn't take this long. And actually, October council meeting was when we had agreed to make changes to your contract. And we are in 2 months later, but this has actually been pending since August. I understand Irma got in the way and that took up about 8 weeks of our life, but, we still went to work and we still had to get things done. So, with that said, I think this is a greater conversation that needs to happen anyway at admin and finance, but, okay. Hearing that, okay, so we're done with the resos. We're going right into J, the village mayor's report. All righty, so I try to end every December with a report of recapping what we've achieved and some good milestones and sort of set the tone and the way for 2018. I'm gonna start it on a really positive note, and then we'll go into some of the business at hand. I took some notes here, so with that said, I'm gonna probably read off of it. 2017, needless to say, has been a monumental year for us. The newsletter that recently came out, and it can be found also on the village website, really highlights 2017 as what we achieved as a council for the residents, and I'm going to recap it real briefly. I don't touch on every point. The village of El Portal celebrated our 80th anniversary. We kicked off this year with a county-wide talent search, and a new village official seal was elected. We also became Tree City USA. We introduced a farmer's market into the village of El Portal. We received $500,000 from the state of Florida for the next phase of our stormwater project. Third year in a row, our assessed property values have increased without any development. We updated and passed our village comprehensive plan and land use map. El Portal was mentioned in the Miami Herald on how and where to buy a home. We unanimously passed the ban on conversion therapy. El Portal was selected to potentially receive a $4 million loan grant to commence the septic to sewer. Our State of the Village, again, was held on the fourth Tuesday in August. You can now find all of our council meeting audios on our website. The Peacock Express, which is a form of communication to our residents and providing them what we are doing as in its third year. 95% of Hurricane Irma was wrapped up within 45 days. Village hosted again its annual art fair, 5K, egg hunt, 4th of July barbecue, National Night Out with our back to school giveaway, Halloween, and we wrapped up this amazing year with the 80th celebration on December 9th, followed by our tree lighting with the El Portal Children Caroling at our December's food truck night. One of the great things that I can say about all of this is that the financial support that we have received through many sponsorships really says something about our village partnerships and community partnerships with our vendors and with our community businesses. It speaks volumes of the relationship that we have built and the sense of community that I know that we have created in this village. So that's a little recap on what we have achieved. Another area in 2017 is we have experienced a tremendous year of growth. And with growth, there comes a lot of things to celebrate, but it also comes a lot of growing pains. And there's no secret that there's a lot of things that we can do better and a lot of things we need to do better. And one of the things that I will reiterate, and I think we've heard the tone throughout the night, is that we can no longer do business the way that we used to. What used to work and how we got here today was great, but it's not where it's going to take us in the 21st century. The number one thing that we, and by we I mean all 5 of us up here, we must be more accountable to our administration. That includes the attorney, that includes the clerk, and that includes the manager, and the manager's responsibility as it relates to the police department and the front desk. If we are all, and we're pretty small, if we are all not on the same page, we are not going to achieve the things that we need to achieve. If we don't start doing things in a more organized fashion, it's going to become a little more chaotic. Because once again, the way we used to do business is not the way we can, and it's not the way we're going to do business in 2018 and beyond, at least as long as I'm up here. We cannot be in the predicament anymore of any lawsuits or anything of that nature, because we are not having a paper trail, we don't have things reduced to writing, or we are just sort of like, okay, let's sign off on that because that's the easy thing. It's not the way that I think that we need to conduct business. If we don't do things in a more organized fashion, and with all of the development and all these big projects that we're having, we are opening up ourselves for tremendous liability, tremendous liability with our residents too, who hold us 5 accountable every single day. So just as we are held accountable, we must do the same thing. This is not about feelings. This is not about friendship. This is about the job needs to get done. One of the things that I want to reiterate on doing business is several months ago, earlier this year, we made a commitment as a governing body, and we all voted on this, and we said that the clerk is going to receive all agenda items on the Wednesday before the meeting. Well, that's not happening. I think it might have happened for 2 months. I think it might have happened for maybe 4 months. But it is unfair to think that the clerk or the manager can be here on a Friday at 8:30 at night to do agendas because that's when they are getting the things. Cannot happen anymore. I understand we are all busy. I understand we all have other responsibilities. I understand this is our second and third job, but we all took an oath, or we all are getting compensated to some extent. And we will go back to what we said we were going to do, and if it means put it in a resolution, we will put it in a resolution. But we clearly, and I think it was the March council meeting, I kept going back, and I didn't get to that particular meeting, but we agreed that all agenda items will be to the clerk on the Wednesday before the council meeting. And the reason that we said this is because what's happening is that the clerk sends out the agenda on Friday because we have residents that want to see the agenda. But then she gets an email because there's no supporting documents. Well, you can't get the supporting documents if you haven't received them. So I say that's it. So who looks bad? So the clerk gets all the ugly emails. The clerk calls me because I generally set the agenda. And it's always going to come back to the council. See, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to do that anymore. And people would be called out because if it's your responsibility to get something on the agenda and it's not, the chair of that committee will know that it is not on the agenda, and I'm not going to make any exceptions. You don't get it to the clerk. We don't get it to the clerk. The Wednesday, like we agreed, it is not going to go on the agenda. And I'm saying that to say, because I get the phone calls, the clerk gets the phone calls, that they're not happy because we're not being transparent, we are not communicating, we don't put it on the website in a timely fashion. Well, and who is the one to look bad? It's the council. It's not gonna happen. So I'm letting you all know, and I need the support of the council on this, because it's not just me, it's all of us. We have to hold every single person accountable. If it's a resolution, if it's an ordinance, it's no surprise. Everything happens at committees. If you're the chair of that committee, you need to understand that if something passed in your committee, you need to stay on the clerk and say, hey, we got to call the attorney, we need the resolution, we need the ordinance. It cannot be done the week before when the committee meeting was 7 weeks ago. So it's no surprise when there's a reso needed. There's no surprise when there's an ordinance needed, because all of this was discussed at committee, and we all agreed that this is the way we are going to do business. And this is the way that we will do business in 2018 if I have the complete support of the council, because it's what the residents are asking for. That's number one. The next thing is the meetings start at 7. They don't start at 7:04. They don't start at 7:10. They start at 7 o'clock. If residents are here and I am here, I will start the meetings. The meetings start at 7 o'clock. I'm going to reiterate again, we all have lives. We don't want to be here till 10, 11 o'clock at night, and we can expedite this, but we must start on time. I kindly ask each and every single one of you to put an alarm on your phone and please be here on time, because I will start on time and we are on camera and they are going to see that we are waiting until we start, because I can't do certain things if I don't have quorum. The other thing that we agreed with earlier, I looked at, this was the November meeting, October. We are going to change the committee meetings in 2018 in the hopes that we can be a little more transparent and we can have more of a systematic approach to the committee meeting. So as a reminder to the council, the clerk and I were reviewing it today, we're going to form Tuesday night as government night in El Portal. This is in an effort to encourage better attendance and to improve and provide a more organized and transparent message to our residents. We all agreed that we would have the committee meetings on Tuesdays. Therefore, the first Tuesday of every month will be planning and zoning, code enforcement, and public safety. The second Tuesday is public affairs, public works, and admin and finance. Keep in mind that due to some holidays, the Tuesdays may differ a little bit, like January, but the clerk will always send out an email blast, and everything is on our website. The other thing that we agreed at this council meeting, was that our annual budget workshop is going to automatically be on the second Tuesday in July, so there's no guess as to when it's going to be. It's the second Tuesday in July is when we're going to have our first budget workshop, and we all come together so we're not doing things so late. Once again, to reiterate, the State of the Village is always on the fourth Tuesday in August, which is another thing that we had agreed that we were going to continue to do that. The last point that I wanted to cover about 2018 is that, 2018, is that we have a lot going on. The sanctuary is going to start bringing us plans. Today, right before this meeting, there was a Brownsfield town hall, so the residents can come in and ask what exactly that means, and the council's about to pass a resolution. The annexed area potentially is going to come before us. Why am I saying this? I'm saying to say is that we have a lot going on. Our committee meetings are going to be very full. Our council meetings are going to be very full. It's really important that you show up on time because we have a lot going on. It is really important as committee chairs that you all stay with the clerk when the meetings are over. We cannot just drop the ball and then 2 days before the meeting we're calling the clerk or expecting the attorney and the clerk to get everything done in 2 days. Cannot happen. At the committee meetings, we made a decision that things happen there, and when they happen, it's the chair of that committee's responsibility to ensure that it goes. If it doesn't go through, the item is not going to be put in the agenda, and I will be sure to be a stickler on that, and I ask each and every single one of you, this is a reminder that it's really important that you guys have to stay on top of that. Some committee meetings committees more than others are inclined to have resos and ordinances. It could be your committee, I don't know. But you must stay on top and to ensure that it is seen, it's processed through completely, especially if things are very time sensitive. The last thing I want to is in 2018, because we have a lot going on, I'm going to be incorporating some town halls. The first town hall that I'm going to host is going to be Saturday, January 13th. And it's actually going to be the proprietors of the sanctuary will be here. They are going to start to show a little bit of what they intend to do at that facility with regards to some of the tenants and what that's going to look like. And the sanctuary, for those of you that don't know, is the former or old Raider Church, which is on Northeast 2nd Avenue in between 87 and 88th Street. I'm going to be doing a series of those, and they're going to always have different topics, and of course they will be properly advertised. There's a couple of more things that I'm going to incorporate in 2018, again, as an effort to provide better communication to the residents, because we have a lot going on in the village of El Portal, and we don't have a lot of staff. So as a result, it's really important that, and this is where, as a council, we do a lot more probably than in other municipalities because we don't really have a lot of staff. So as a result, it's the compensation probably came in place. But Anyway, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is our interim manager. Our interim manager's resolution expires December 21st. And I will say that I have had the experience and the opportunity to work pretty close with her in the last 4 months. I don't feel, this is definitely, I definitely don't want to say goodbye right now to her. I don't think that clearly that would be the right thing to do for the village at all, or for this administration. I'd asked the council to please consider extending her interim manager position. I mean, there might be some caveats, but we do need to discuss it. This is sort of another thing, that this is expiring, and this potentially should have really been addressed in November. But I don't want her to think that because the resolution expires on the 21st, that she's going to leave us on the 22nd. So I don't want her to get that impression. But I've had, again, if you read the newsletter, I talk a little bit about my experience working with her and with the acting chief, that I think that nothing shows more the demonstration of what we have done than what Irma made us do together. And I think we did a fantastic job. I wouldn't have asked for a better team than I had at that time. For right now, I definitely don't want to see her go anywhere. I think that while she has a lot to learn, she is very receptive, very caring, very strong, and that's very necessary. But very open to listening, open to understanding, open to hear what others think and feel, and then still interject what she feels is going to be the right thing for the village, but keeping in mind with how the mayor and council, are thinking at the same time. So it's not the easiest thing to do when you have to juggle 5 of us. But I, on a personal note, have had the experience to work pretty closely, and I've been impressed, and I'm happy right now. I would like the council to really think about that. Maybe at the Admin and Finance Committee meeting, we can further address it with regards to what's going to happen next with our interim manager, because we have a lot going on, and we can't be in another predicament where either we're starting over again. It really needs to be the right thing that we do, and it's not going to happen during my mayor's report. It's really more of at the admin and finance level. But I just wanted to say that her level of professionalism matters, and I think it's made a difference. And I think that's a quality that is essential in that position, and perhaps maybe have lacked a little bit in the past. With that said, and just on the last note, I mentioned to the, we're always so busy here, but I mentioned the interim manager and to the clerk, and I believe to the acting chief, that I actually want to have a meeting with them. Just briefly, I think it's important to come together and just, talk about sort of what we're doing, and, how we're going to move forward in 2018. And really 2018, I'm hoping for it to be a year that we've been pretty unified in the last couple of months, but a little more, and bring everybody on board as it relates to the manager staff. It's one thing where the mayor and council have this vision, and we're out there selling this vision, but then they come here and they don't experience that vision or that mission. So it's important, again, that we sort of come together and ensure that, the will of the mayor and the council is sort of carried through the administration and through the residents, so that every resident that walks in this door feels like they are a part of what we are trying to do. And I believe that the sense of community that we have created in our town is perhaps second to none. So on the last note, I'm going to bring it up at the next Peacock Express, and I actually don't know if the manager is going to bring it up. She probably will, and so I won't touch on it. I'm touching it very little. We had a meeting with FDLE. So for residents, you might see some changes when you come to the front. Please don't take any of that personal. Are you going to cover that in your report? Okay. So I think it's, we've had to all comply with some new policies and procedures required by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So if you haven't yet, I ask every member in this council and the administration to please do so. As once again, when people don't comply, they call the mayor, and I had a meet on a Monday morning with them It's important that we do what's right and set the example as the elected leaders that we are and we've been elected to do. With that said, I'm going to type all this up, finish it up a little bit. I have little typos in there, and I'll make sure that the clerk gets it so that the council gets it, and it'll be posted as well on the village website. On that note, I want to wish everybody a very happy holidays, a happy new year. Hope you have a wonderful 2018. More than anything, full of a lot of blessings and a lot of joy. That's the word I use now, joy. And I want to thank every member on this council. We've all had our own experiences, but I think every experience that we have may drive us crazy, but to some extent brings us a little closer and makes us a little bit more humane. And I have to, and I'll reiterate it again. I think the last 4 months has been a little bit of a breath of fresh air for me as the mayor and having to be as involved as I have been and I am with the administration and with the community and so on and so forth. So, and I want the residents to know that. And Madam Clerk, I make a commitment to you that you will not be working Fridays at 9 o'clock at night because those are not hours to work. It's not appropriate to be expected to answer calls or work at that hour. So on that note, I think it concludes my report. And I didn't thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Attorney Geller, happy Hanukkah. And to all the residents, I wish you all a happy holidays and thank you for having us. And that concludes my report. Ms. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your kind words. It has been a challenging and fast 4 months. I mean, I can't believe it's already over, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with us all together, because it has been a good challenge, and working with you has been excellent. It is great to have small victories and large ones, so thank you. I'm going to be quick with my report because it is pretty long, as always, but I'm going to make it short. It's been a busy December. And we did have a wonderful 80th anniversary celebration on December 9th. We were able to have 60 plus, I think it was a lot more than that.
Yeah,
a lot more than that, residents here, as well as family and friends of the village in the village hall that was transformed into a fabulous jazz lounge commemorating our 1937 incorporation date. So it was a beautiful event. And all of our council members were present and dressed and ready, and it was a lovely event. So I thank everyone for helping and assisting us, and especially to the mayor and the clerk and acting chief Huffnagel for also making it a beautiful event. Hurricane Irma recovery, just to give you a touch about what's happening with that. We're now at the point, as you know, the debris removal, all that's done, and we're paying the bills for that. But we're now at the point where we are fixing infrastructure, so signage and all that. That work started today. Fences were fixed 2 weeks ago. We had the tot lot reopened December 2nd when that fence was finally repaired, and now we're working on the nature trail fencing as we speak, and that is moving along quickly. For our police department, we are still addressing the FDLE audit shortfalls with the acting chief, but we did meet yesterday with Isis Crespo, who's the criminal justice manager for the Department of Law Enforcement, and we met with her yesterday morning with the mayor and acting chief and I, going over the audit in depth and discussing how all of the employees of the village must have the security clearance in order to work here. We're at the point now where we've got everyone, maybe one or two members of the council haven't been able to do their security clearance and staff, but we need those as quickly as possible because we have to be in compliance. On top of that, we will now have a closed door policy.
Who has not completed their?
Me.
Okay, and who else?
our clerk, our attorney, Councilmember Dreyer.
Okay, so I think that, I mean, January, we don't meet until January, our committee's in a couple of weeks, and this is the holidays, but that's definitely something that we need to address at the admin finance, because, or safety, public safety, I don't know where it fits, because I think, in my opinion, that's unacceptable.
Well, I thank you for that.
When are we gonna do?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a date already?
As I expressed to the manager,
Mhm.
with my job, there's certain days that I can do it, and when I get an opportunity to do it, I will do it. I've asked for alternate days, they don't have those days. When I get to it, I can get to it.
We'll try to work with everyone to address those, but it's not up to El Portal. The agency that's handling the fingerprinting is the Miami Shores Police Department, so that there's an autonomy, that's out of our police department. We have to have someone else conduct those, and they give us the dates that they're available to do that. There's a time that they have to set up for the security clearances. So
But we
that
can
is
get
what-
it done wherever.
Well, I don't know that we would have
And
to.
that's what. I think that's a question that you have to ask our acting chief, and then from my experience, I think you can, but I own a school, and if I give them, my employees the ORI number,
Right, the ORI number.
you plug it in wherever you go. The difference is that wherever you go, you may pay, as opposed to Miami Shores doing it for free. But again, I can't compare my school to the police department, so it was something that, talk to,
The acting chief.
yeah, and then if they can do it and they want to pay, that's completely, as long as it gets done. Whether it's Miami Shores, or if you want to go somewhere else to pay, it's got to be live scan, and it has to be the ORI number, because live scan is the only way. They don't do the cards anymore. It's a little machine that they do
But
now.
again, this is something we've been discussing for like 2 months now. And once again, we're dragging our feet.
No one's dragging my feet.
So,
As far as,
well,
I'm not dragging my feet.
and I'm speaking in general, I'm
Okay.
not pointing fingers at any one person, but I would
Okay.
hope that we are cooperating so that we are in compliance with something that is required, and that this does not have to be a painful process or a begging process from anyone. And for the fact that some of our council and some of our, our village clerk and our attorney and our, CFO, these are all very important positions.
I'm sorry, I've worked other places where things are addressed to me directly, not like I've also spoken. Before you talk, you should actually take a second to talk to me.
Again, I am not.
No, you
pointing
are, you said,
fingers.
you said
In
clerk.
general-
Clerk is me. I'm
But
sitting here.
in general,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying that it's inappropriate that we have so many bodies that have not been in compliance with this. And this has been going on for a couple of months now.
Not everybody owns their own business and can do things when they can do it. People report to other people.
Again, priorities are priorities. This is not just we need to be in compliance, and this is also for our residents. So it's not about excuses, and I'm not actually looking for excuses. I'm just saying that I'm hoping and I'm trusting that we're all going to be in compliance by the beginning of the year.
If I could just interject, if again, and I'll just reiterate, I know I spoke to the clerk a couple of days ago, and I think she said next week when her kids were out of school, but again, just get a date solidified, I ask you all,
I
just get.
cannot do it on a Monday or a Tuesday, which
So
is when
that's,
they
so,
have to
so
do
that's
it.
fine, so speak to Ronnie, and again, I think that with the OCA or the ORI, no matter what the result, when you put that number in, the results go to that's attached to an agency or to a business, in this case, an agency, so they would get the reports and it comes where it needs to go. That's what I understand, but again, and then if you're willing to go to any other department, just go and then you'll have to just pay the fee. But just like, we kindly ask you to just get it done. I don't wanna have another meeting with ISIS. Her name was Isis Crespo. Her name was Isis Crespo. I don't wanna have to have another meeting, and she says she'll come to our council meeting. I just don't want it to get to that point.
Right. Oh,
So just please meet with Ronnie and get that number.
Okay. So yes, our village chamber is open to the public, but the administrative offices will no longer be open to the public, and those people who are visitors or who are not security cleared will have to have hip-to-hip police escort. As you know, we have a very small police force of only 6, so that means you will have to make appointments to visit us within the administrative offices. Otherwise, we'll have to meet you here in the village hall. So that's, so for our residents as well. So unfortunately, I know our residents are accustomed to being able to walk in and come in and talk to people, but that unfortunately is not the case anymore. We can't do that. We have to preserve some security for ourselves and for our police department. So there will be no more of that, even for our residents. But I will move on. Speaking of police, we will be conducting part-time interviews starting tomorrow to fill some open positions for part-time police officers. Again, we're very happy to have Officer Paul Brutaglia join our ranks as a full-time officer, and with that, we will then add additional part-time officers in the coming weeks. I'll just skip a little bit and talk to you about Mayor Cubillos and I attended the 2018 delegation public hearing presentation at the Stephen P. Clark building downtown with our lobbyist Richard Pinsky, and Mayor Cubillos gave a 2-minute talk about the legislative priorities of the village of El Portal, mostly septic to sewer and stormwater, but also talked about just the virtues of the village. She did a wonderful job and in representing the village and really promoting our name and ensuring that people know about our small little village, because we were amongst the ranks of larger municipalities.
There were 75 agenda items.
Yes, 75 presenters, and we were
Number 14.
Yeah, number 14. But that's good, because when you're early, people hopefully will remember you. So, but I do want, if you feel the inclination, please track our House bill numbers. They're number 2925 and 3231. Those are easy numbers. Track them. They're in the Florida House of Representatives Agriculture and Natural Resources Appropriation Subcommittees now. So we will be, the mayor and I and council members, I know Councilmember Roman and Councilmember Mathis have discussed going to Tallahassee to help us out and to get the word out about what we're doing here in El Portal. But we will be speaking to members of that subcommittee and others. Session starts January 4th. I'm sure we will see our village attorney in his other role there as well. So we look forward to that. And then I'll wrap up with this. I did advertise for a human resources coordinator position on the village website as well as Indeed.com. We've gotten a number of good candidates. Interviews will be conducted over the next couple of weeks. I know we have to get through Christmas, but I'm sure when people are looking for something special and a good position, they will come in. So I hope that we can make a selection in early January, but I will be keeping you all posted on how that goes. So we're at least moving forward with getting the human resources position filled. That concludes my manager's report.
I have a quick question, and I know you said there's a job description, and my apology for not remembering. Is on the job description or policy is that they're gonna have to get the fingerprints on from the get-go?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get that out of the way. Okay. Okay, great, thank you. At this time, our village attorney?
The only thing I was going to comment on, it's actually in the manager's written report, but since you didn't discuss it, we've had several meetings with the PBA. We're working on another meeting to follow up where we are on it. I'll reiterate for the record that it's probable at some point we're going to request an executive session to discuss what our position is for final negotiations. It's still actually a little early for that, and I don't think we're quite at the point, but they've been cordial meetings, and we're very hopeful we'll be able to get an agreement in place, and we're working on a date. We had to reschedule the last one, but it'll be probably sooner than later, we hope. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my report.
I have a question. There is what's going on now? I believe the clerk got a call weeks ago with regards to the former police officer Olivia.
But, you know, the League of Cities is handling that. Frankly, they have not been very forthcoming. We have insurance that handles that, and so outside counsel does handle that, and they pay for the expenses of it because we pay insurance. But they haven't been really very forthcoming. My understanding is it had to do with, I believe the officer was on workers' compensation, and I think that's what the issue was that she ended up being terminated, and she alleges that it had something to do with her status on workers' compensation. We don't believe that's accurate.
And who's the attorney in the Florida League of Cities, do we know? Was it
Yeah,
John?
well, they use the firm in Fort Lauderdale. I know Jeff Hockman is usually the one who is the attorney who handles that on our behalf. It's Johnson and Selmo Murdoch.
Because I remember when the clerk mentioned it to me briefly, I don't know if like we all had, if you were there back then, you're gonna have to get subpoenaed, but obviously we would have sufficient time or notice if that's the case, right? And we could
Well,
probably-
certainly that's the case. You know, again, they've been a little less than completely communicative in what's going on with the case. I know that the interim chief told me that she's gonna have to testify, but, you know, we don't think that there's merit to it.
Okay.
Okay, I just actually informed you today, maybe 5 minutes before this meeting started, because you were not aware of it. And I am being told that I was subpoenaed to go in and give a briefing on this case that happened. It's been since 2000, it started in 2010. This is an ongoing lawsuit. I was made aware that, Gela, you were never informed about it, so I just.
All we heard was that the clerk had gotten a call. The only thing that they've reached out, it's a little unusual, frankly, but Johnson and Selmo operates.
No, I've been called, they've been communicating with me, and I.
So who prepares her for the depo, the attorney?
Their attorney, they prepare me, yeah.
Can you reach out to them to find out like what's going on? I mean, because it can, obviously, it can impact our insurance, and it can impact the payout or anything of that nature. I mean, we need to know, we need to be in the know on that. I don't even remember her, it was so long ago, remember her? So long ago. But once again, this is why we have to do things the right way, because if we don't do things the right way or terminate the right way, these things happen. Okay. Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay, great. There is no unfinished business in general order. A new business is, last year, every year we have a toy giveaway. Last year, we started doing it at Phyllis Ruth Miller, which is right down the street from us. Although they are not in El Portal, we still have children that go there. One of the reasons we didn't do it in El Portal was because in 15 was the last time we actually had a toy distribution here. But with the closing of the trailer park, we didn't get a lot of kids. So we thought it'd be neat to help a nearby school. And we went last year with Councilperson Roman and Councilperson Dre and some of the police officers. We went, and it was really well received. And how they select their children is they pick 100 kids from the free and reduced lunch. And then they come, so it's kids in the community anyway, so it makes it a win-win. We are doing it tomorrow. If you'd like to join us, just reach out to Ronnie, and she will let you know the details on it, or you could talk to us right afterwards. But we are meeting here at 8:30 in the morning. We're gonna do 2 stops, and we are gonna have Santa Claus this year with us, which was a Santa Claus, well, it was the Santa Claus. And then I think we finished up, the clerk helped me wrap up all the toys today. And that's gonna be tomorrow, Phyllis Ruth Miller, 11 o'clock. So like, say 10:30 we have to meet. Yes.
If you're done with that item?
Yeah.
Just as an item of new business, in view of the comments you made earlier, and the fact that the appointment to the interim manager is expiring, you should at least extend that to,
Okay.
as a formality, to at least to your next meeting, the February meeting, something like that, so that there's no question as to who was in place.
Okay, that's great. I'm interested in extending it a little longer, but I think there's components in there that I think she would like to perhaps maybe take a look at, and the council to consider doing something maybe a little different. So if it's the will of the council, since we have an admin and finance meeting in January, and then we have a council meeting, that we could address what that extension would look like, but in the interim, if we can extend this reso until February 15th, February 15th, okay. And then in that time frame, we can identify if we're gonna make her the interim manager for another year, or whatever. There's gotta be components in there that perhaps being an interim manager for 4 months, you know, there might be more things that needs to be in there, and I understand that, so.
It's just
if the
whatever
okay.
time period, but you need.
February
you need that
15th.
Someone in place.
Okay, so, with that said, do I need a motion on that? So if I have a motion to extend, the agreement with our interim manager until February 15, with the caveat that we're gonna have this more extensive conversation, at the admin and finance. February 15th.
Okay.
Is that the day of your February council meeting?
No, I picked that date. I don't
February
know why.
27th is the council meeting.
Okay, so we can do February
February
27th.
27th.
February 27th.
I'll motion.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion before I request roll call? All right, hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
You're welcome. Thank you, that's it. Okay, anybody in good and welfare?
I'm Felix Guzman, 440 Northeast 90th Street. I'm sorry, I was under the impression, and where is she? Oh, she's in the bathroom. Under the impression I have two beloved neighbors of mine who are equally as witty and smart and have this power trip going on
Yes.
for quite some time now, and I really need this to be resolved because it's very uncomfortable. We have Christmas parties going on. I want them to both be there, and they both need to back down. I just noticed by even being here that she should be in the council seating, just sitting there. I mean, she's so witty, and she should use that energy to something just more positive and productive. Are you hearing me, honey? Yeah, you are very smart, very witty. You should be back there, you know? Look how smart you are. I'm here because you gave me a call, and I'm here. I mean, we should have her as PR, and all the residents would be here. When it comes to my neighbor, this is one of the sweetest persons I know. But just like this one, they have a trigger. And they both know how to trigger each other. But this one really knows because she's older. She's older, so she really knows that she's using her elderly card. I know you're using it. And back to you, councilperson, my beloved neighbor for 15 years who I love, who's been for me. And you know what I'm talking about. You also need to back down. I mean, this lady could be your mom. And what I want from both of you, I'm talking to you, Missy. It's an apology. Not even for what, just an apology. I want a Christmas miracle here. I mean, and you know what, it's not, you're both right, but then again, you make it wrong with the approach. I saw you when you went to ask him, you start with the positive, then the negative. You went and you asked him why he didn't answer the phone. Was he available? Yada, yada, yada. And then you wanted to say that the reason you were calling was because you wanted to compliment him for being there for you. You started the other way around. I tried calling you and you didn't answer the phone. I wanted to let you know that I wanted to appreciate you. That's how you start. So I'm sure that that's the same way you approach this one, which you know is another spitfire, and you come right back at you. And this can't go on. And you need to be an example as well. You can't let her get to you. You can't. You just can't. You decided to be back there. And see, I can do this because I'm on this side. But when we're like, it's being behind the counter at Starbucks, somebody can read us, we can't say anything. Now that person on the other side, they're always right. And this one kind of knows that. So I'm begging you both, can we please call it truce? Oh, and whatever needs to be repaired on your side, so his water or whatever it is that's coming to yours, I'll pay for it. I will pay for it if it's necessary. Because life is too short. And if money can take care of something, it ain't a problem. Because the money's out there, we just have to find it. Well, not when it comes to CITT.
It's so funny.
So,
That's too much.
can we please get a?
No, it's not, we're in good and welfare, Ms. Brooks.
No, we're not done yet, because after he apologizes, you're going to also apologize. Because you're going to apologize for taking things going through it the wrong way. We don't need to get here. You go to him with a casserole dish, and you say, you know what, your water situation is really
Mac
bugging
and
me.
cheese.
And you know what, it's the approach.
I agree.
You know, it's the
It's al-
approach.
it's always
I
gonna be
said,
approach.
I will pay for whatever it is that his thing is doing to your property. If it's going to make everybody happy, hey, I'll do it. I won't go down with a fight. So, what's it gonna be? Is it over? Thank you. Is it over? Can we drop it? What? That doesn't say. We're dropping it all, starting with this, just. All right, but make sure that you start with the positive. Come over here. No, come over here. This is gonna be like an exercise.
Marilyn Brooks, 400 Northeast 90th Street. My question is, the problem is the water from 420,
Wait, where's the positive? Where's the positive?
if I get it taken care of.
No. Where's the positive? Why don't you tell me what a wonderful neighbor he's been so far? I'm sure he has something good. Like, you hardly ever see him. He's
I
never
don't
home.
see him, so
He's
I
never-
can't tell
isn't
you
that
that.
great?
I can't tell you that,
Well,
because
that's a
I
good
hardly
thing.
see him.
That's a good thing.
Okay? So therefore, when I see him, and I'm not always outside. He's going or he's coming once in a while. But when I found this to be a problem, I approached his mate first,
And he's a sweetheart. They all think that he's not. He's also a sweetheart.
okay? In a good manner. So, and he said he would take care of it. He never did. It continued to happen. The manager took it on.
But it didn't have to go there. He could have approached
She
him like
did.
that.
I didn't tell her to. She heard
How
about
did
it.
she know about it?
He did. He told her, I guess.
Okay, stop right
He
there.
told her.
Stop right
I
there.
didn't. No.
Okay, so here we go. There's the loop. He thinks that you told her. You think that he told her.
How did you know,
Oh, wait,
manager?
this is going back 15 years. He wasn't even
No,
here
no,
15
no.
years
We're
ago.
talking about right now.
I can answer that. You invited me for coffee, and I went to your house, and you expressed concerns. So it's my job to go back, and
Okay.
I asked the manager to please address this.
So unconsciously.
That's how that
okay,
happened. It was
unconsciously
not
you
Harold, it
brought
was me.
up.
Yeah,
Because
spoke
I
to the
cannot
mayor.
call him and tell him to do this.
You can't assume
I
that-
went to her, and she took care of it.
you can't
Okay,
assume
and
you're gonna talk to a public authority, they're gonna say something.
She spoke to the manager. The manager called a meeting between Harold and myself.
But
We met.
what were your true intentions when you made this comment to her? Honestly, what were your true intentions when you made that comment to her when she went to visit you for coffee?
She's the mayor.
Why?
Because I want her input.
Okay.
The two people involved was advised already, and nothing was
It's not
happening.
advised. You
And
think
so then I had to go to the mayor.
you were an attorney in your other life. I mean, you must have
Okay.
been some kind of.
I went to the mayor, and I told her about it.
And let me ask you something. I've never been to these meetings, which actually it's not that boring at all. Is she always here to every meeting?
Yes.
Just
Okay.
about.
You have nothing to do.
I do.
You don't.
I live here,
No,
and I pay my taxes
You all
here,
live here. You don't pay more taxes than I do.
but I am concerned.
See me here.
I am concerned.
Nitpicking.
Okay, may I? Because I think
I'm
that we
not
need to
gonna
keep
do
it
this
to
on
the
the
good
record.
and welfare
Oh.
too.
I'm not gonna do this on the
Oh,
record.
you know what? Yeah, I think.
He-
I'm not gonna do
he's
this
got
on the
something to say.
record
Okay.
Because this clearly is not a village matter. This is a neighbor matter. This is an issue that's been going on for 20 years. And if it's gonna be resolved, it's gonna be resolved between Ms. Brooks and I and no one else.
I think that's it.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Councilperson Mathis, and he says he's gonna talk to you.
All right. Can I be there?
No.
All right.
Start with the positive, though.
I'll be with
Okay.
the.
Positive.
And anybody,
That is the positive?
Felix not being there is
Oh, yeah, me not being there is the positive.
it'll keep you smiling. Anybody else in good and welfare? Officer Owens, you're okay? We're good? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion? Oh,
Harold Mathis, 420 Northeast 90th. When you guys came to the dais today, there were portraits in your chairs.
Yes.
Those are gifts from me to you for our 80th. The artist that I commissioned to do it made individual peacocks for each one of you. They're almost done. He has some more shading and stuff to do. So, but I wanted them for the 80th, but there was an issue with Art Basel and him and contract and all that. But yeah, I got it in writing. But this is my gift to you guys.
see.
He is very sweet.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Mathis. I really appreciate that, my brother. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilperson Mathis.
You're welcome. Really appreciate it. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
It was nice to have you at our meetings. I know you haven't been here in a very long time. Thank you for coming. And Ms. Brooks, very nice to see you. We missed you at the 80th. I want you to know that we have the plaque for the ramp to dedicate to Mayor Black. So we'll talk about when we're going to do that, okay? So that so that you're there for that. You know. Anybody else on good and welfare? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Motion been made by Councilperson Mathis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilperson Roman. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, our council meeting ends at 9:21 PM. You all have a Merry Christmas.